Hey guys, Trevor Chickadee here from SpineWise, and if you're suffering with brain fog, maybe you're feeling a bit fatigued, maybe you're having some digestive issues, then today's video is all for you because I want to talk to you about the leaky life. So you might have heard about leaky gut, but have you heard about things like leaky lung, leaky brain, and other areas that are just so vitally important? If you're watching our videos, please like, subscribe to our videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on notifications. We'd love to keep you up to date with all the latest information that's coming out your way. It's the easiest way that you can keep up with it all. Alright, so let's have a chat quickly about the leaky system and what it actually is. Because not too many people understand what this is, and not many people understand how profound and how prolific this seems to be with people. So if we have a look at our gut as an example to start with, we've got our intestinal tract coming through here, we've got an artery coming on the side of it. Basically all our organs and our bloodstream as well, we have like a filtration system that sits around it, and the main purpose for that filtration system is to stop foreign objects getting into the bloodstream that don't belong there, and then if they do get in there, stop them from getting into our vital organs. And this is what this filtration process is for. And when we're referring to things like leaky gut or leaky brain, leaky lung, what we're really referring to is the breakdown in what's known as your barrier protection system, which is what we're talking about. So let's give a bit of an example of how this works. Alright, so if we look at our digestive system here, here's our gut, here's an artery running alongside of it. We have these little spaces, these tiny little spaces within our wall of our gut itself, and the whole purpose of those spaces is to act like a piece of filter paper. So smaller particles that need to can get through, and the larger particles kind of bounce back and don't get through the wall. And this allows for things to be pushed out of the bloodstream and out into waste products, out into filtration and out of the system, and allows for certain things to be kept in as well, so things don't come out that shouldn't come out. The problem with this is that when this system breaks down and these holes start opening up, now what we have are these big particles can also slip through or leak through. Okay, and this is where the concept of a leaky gut pattern comes from. But it doesn't just occur in your gut, it actually can happen all over the system. So the most common one we hear about is leaky gut, and this one is usually associated with significant bloating, especially if you bloat after meals. And some people, it may even feel like you're almost like 3 or 4 months pregnant from bloating. It's a really common issue with this. The other real common one that we see is a leaky brain, and this is where our blood-brain barrier breaks down. When the blood-brain barrier breaks down, this can often lead to a foggy, clouded head, a lack of clarity in your head, and it seems like everything is hard to process. Like you've got to wind the machine up to get your brain actually going. And the other common one we see is a leaky lung, and that's when we get a similar process happening in the lung. We get fluid movement in the lung, and these people often seem to develop an irritating throat cough, like a type cough, as we start getting immunoglobulins or immune responses occurring in the throat as a result of all that. So the key things that come from this as well: we protect the blood against stuff that's going into the digestive system, so things that you're eating, protects the organs themselves, and then allows for the elimination of waste. And these are really the key big things. And one of the main things that regulates it in the gut, at least, is a system called your vagal tone. And we've spoken a fair bit about vagus nerve and how important your vagus nerve actually is. And this is one of the key areas that vagal function is important, because the vagus nerve is actually really important in actually controlling how wide those junctions are. They do open and close, and it controls that, and that's part of our brain health. And this is where we start seeing links between gut-brain barriers and brain-gut barriers and the like. Alright, so there's a whole lot of different things that we know of that can break them down, and then there's a few things that have been suggested that may break it down as well. So by and large, the most important one that breaks this stuff down that we see is inflammation. Inflammation is a real key thing. So if you imagine having a balloon with all these tiny little holes in it, and you start blowing the balloon up, as that balloon expands and gets bigger and bigger, so do those holes. So inflammation is a really big key. And at the top of this with inflammation, we start talking about specific food sensitivities. So we have little particles in here that are then sitting on the wall of the digestive system or elsewhere in the body. Then what ends up happening is the immune system comes in, tries to knock them off, and as it tries to knock them off, it creates a level of inflammation. and that inflammation then results in an opening. So food sensitivities are by far the most common trigger for this type of pattern that we see in people on a regular basis, especially a substance known as gluten. And you don't need to have celiac disease for this to be happening. This can happen with people who produce high levels of products such as zonulin, which can open these gut wall filtration mechanisms up and create this leaky pattern, and that can lead the way to allowing other food products into the bloodstream and setting off immune reactions elsewhere as well. So gluten is a really common one, but there are other food sensitivities. Lactose is one that we commonly see, and dairy in general is another one, but food sensitivities are at the top of the list. Infection is another really big one. So viral infection, parasitic infection, these things can create inflammatory reactions around there. And then less commonly, especially the blood-brain barrier, we start seeing things like electromagnetic frequencies, heavy metals, these type of things are another triggers for those type of areas. All right, so what can you do about this? All right, so the first thing we want to talk about, as I said before, is vagal activity is really important. So making sure we get our vagal tone up, making sure you get enough time to yourself, rest and recovering, make sure you spend some time in nature, get back into contact with yourself, and you know, remove some of the stresses away from your life. There's a ton of different exercises you can do to increase vagal tone as well, and we've got plenty of videos on that, and you can jump on and have a look at our other videos on that type of stuff. Avoiding specific foods that you think may be triggers for it. And one of the key things that we can look at with this is doing what we call a withdrawal provocation test. So if we're worried about gluten potentially being an issue, come off gluten completely for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then go back and have a large meal containing gluten in it. What we'll often find is that when you're coming away from it, you may not notice too big a difference, but then when you go back on it, you may find an exacerbation of all your symptoms, especially digestive symptoms. So this is a withdrawal provocation test, and it's one of the easiest ways that you can, on your own at home, work out potentially whether certain food sensitivities may be aggravating that process. Sleep is a really big key one, especially for blood-brain barrier health. So sleep deprivation often creates problems for it. When we start talking about gut barriers, things like bone broths and glutamine, two substances which have been shown to do a lot to try and heal up that gut wall and close them back down. There are a ton of herbals that can also help with that. So things like pomegranate, which has a good supporting mechanism for probiotic health, and also somewhat of an antimicrobial. And that can help lead to the next thing, which is cleaning out infection. Make sure you're recovered from infection. Make sure those parasitics are being cleared out, things like that. And the final one is your probiotic health. Dysbiosis, SIBO, these type of things can also lead to this type of pattern as well. So anyway guys, there's a quick look into the leaky system, and I hope you realize now that the barrier protection system is more than just your gut. It's a broad thing right throughout the body, and you know, sometimes the only symptom you may have is just a foggy head. You know, that whole clouded heady, lack of clarity thing may be the only symptom you get, even though there may be other issues elsewhere in the system. So guys, if you have any questions, please just post them up, send me a message. More than happy to help in any way, shape or form. Otherwise, I shall see you in the next vid. Bye for now.